Hello again and welcome to Andyn Farm. One of the things that I managed to get done yesterday was cutting a little bit more of the meadow because it was dry for a couple of hours yesterday afternoon. Probably cut a little bit more than I was planning to because it then ended up getting dark, and unfortunately it's a bit misty and overcast today. But most important thing is I needed to get it off. So you'll see me raking and removing the cuttings from yesterday using my meadow rake, which I think we looked at the other week, and pitchfork, which is very, very handy. You have to be careful again because it's quite sharp at the tips, but it's very good for picking up and moving and spreading bulk material. Okay, so one of the things we started to do the other week was to start to cut back small areas of the meadow. As I said, we've got quite a large area of meadow dotted in 3 or 4 different areas. So we're gradually cutting as the weeks go on. I've left thinking it was going to be sunny this afternoon, left picking up until today and cut a bit more probably than I should have done. Now, today, I've got to get in and get the cuttings off, but also I'm going to show you later on what we do with the cuttings once we've taken them off to help to spread the seed and spread the meadow around into some of the paddock areas. You hear the rattle there of some of the seed and seed pods as I'm raking it off, which also means that there's going to be plenty of seed to drop when I put these out in the meadow. I might have a few areas to go back over, but on the whole, that's pretty well cut, but there is a fair bit to come off. Basically, with our meadow, we're creating dappled shade because this was a very exposed south-facing site. So we've got a native windbreak hedge in the back. We've got random trees we've planted up through there as well to give us a bit of shelter from the north. But within it, we're also creating a small dappled shade with some young lime trees, rowan, and a couple of red oaks for colour. And again, I haven't cut all the meadow. I've just cut sections to start with, which means that anything that was living in it has then got a chance to move on gradually back towards the hedgerows. The tree that I'm currently raking past is a rowan or mountain ash. Again, it's one of the few that still have a very few berries that the birds haven't eaten yet. Most of them the birds have already stripped. The other thing with exposing all these little areas of soil as I'm raking off the top means that all the seed that will have dropped through the season has got a really good chance of germinating now over the winter, and it'll give us next year's flowers and cover. And we're also keeping down the grass by taking off this vegetation that otherwise would improve the fertility of the soil. And as you can see from a couple of minutes work, there's a fair sized pile there that's ready to go. Again, for clearing a meadow, we tend to use a meadow rake. We've got 2, but in small areas, particularly around trees, we use this aluminium one, which is really nice and light. But basically rounded teeth, nice big open, inch or 50mm, probably 1.5 inch gaps in between the tines, and it just means that you can comb it gently over the ground and you're picking off the cuttings rather than really digging into the ground. So you're almost floating it over the surface and just pulling off the bulk of the material. That's the key. The pitchfork I'll then be using in a minute to back it up. Always good when you can hear that seed, because that seed is then going to drop in the meadow. So you can hear all those seed pods that have not yet dropped from probably the third flush of flowers. So those are going to drop where I'm going to scatter them. So our trusty lawn mowers, Mary, Albert and Herbert, the team, have been very nicely grazing down the existing wildflower, following on from the alpacas who always get the first pinch. So they've been doing a good job. The pitchfork comes in because it just means I can lightly scatter wildflower cuttings over the surface and just basically move our way along the bank. What will then happen, the animals will then come and start to munch on some of this. Some of the seed will drop just purely with me taking it out of the bag, and the wind will also scatter it as well. So slowly over time, we're developing wildflower through this area. And also on the top of the banking is always one of the biggest areas or most popular areas with all the animals. So they'll munch this as it turns to straw-like, but also they'll drop the seed as they go. And it also means the birds can come and eat at the same time as well. What you wouldn't want to do is to just put it in a big pile. So I'm just gradually dropping little bits into little areas, but nothing's too deep. It's just spread generally over the surface, where again the animals will move it around, and hopefully the seed will then drop and we'll get a few more flowers ready for next year. If you don't obviously have animals and you're doing it in a smaller scale, another way of doing this would be, if you wanted to increase your wildflower area, would be to do exactly the same. Take your cuttings from your meadow, again spread it over an area of cut grass or impoverished area, but then rather than leaving it to rot down, after a couple of weeks it would want to be raked off again and then composted. So we're very lucky here because the animals will actually eat it down for us, anything that's left, and the seed will then get scattered. But in a home setting, you would want to basically scatter it and then rake it off again in a couple of weeks' time when it goes dry. So you're not letting it improve the soil. Thank you very much for watching. If you've got any further comments or any other questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. Thank you. Alpacas are very happy this week because they're back in the new field. So this field hasn't had any animals in it for a month, so they are very happy to be back in here, and they'll be grazing this down for the next month, and then the sheep will follow them up.